What's up there, YouTube? It's Gores here, giving you guys a deck profile for the Tenyi deck I've been playing in Platinum. But before we get into that, I just want to give a huge shout out to you guys for reaching 100 subscribers. Super excited about that, very happy and proud of myself. And thank you guys, cannot thank you guys enough for the support that you guys have been giving me. So without further ado, let's get into the deck profile. So first off, we play 3 Odd Hurrah. Pretty standard. It's a level 1 tuner, and if you control no effect monsters, you can summon it from the hand. And then if you control a non-effect monster, you can banish it and add a worm from your banished back to your hand. We have 3 Max C and 3 Ash Blossom, best hand traps in Master Duel right now. 3 copies of Tenyi Shithana. Just like every Tenyi, you can summon it from your hand if you control a face-up non-effect monster. And then if it is in the graveyard, if it's in your hand or graveyard when one of your non-effect monsters is destroyed, you can banish it and then destroy an opponent's monster and bring back your Tenyi. The destruction for your opponent's monster does not target, so that's pretty good. It can help you out some things. Nahada I played over the Fire Mapira because it has a little bit more relevance in the format. It is not the best card, but it does come up quite a bit against Eldritch because you can reduce your opponent's monster's attack by 1500 when it's battling one of your non-effect monsters. Next we have the 1 Mare. You have to be really careful when you're going for the Mare combo. You want to make sure that you have at least Ash Blossom or Called by the Grave if you're going to go for the Mare combo, because if your opponent drops Max C, they're going to get to draw 5 cards off of just your Mare. However, Mare is really strong and just way too good not to be running. I really enjoy Mare. I think it is going to definitely help this deck a lot when you're trying to just push for that extra mile. One thing that is really strong that I think I should be noting is that this card can give you access to Appaloosa, and it can also give you access to turn 1 Draco Berserker and Sahasrah, so pretty important card. Next up, we have the 3 copies of Tenyi Spirit Vishuddha. Vishuddha, it lets you summon itself just like every other Tenyi, and then you can banish it while you control a non-effect monster to return a card your opponent controls to their hand. Ashuna can summon itself just like every other Tenyi, and then you can banish it from the graveyard to summon a Tenyi from your deck. They're also level 7, so 1 plus 7 equals 8. For all my Sword Soul players, you guys should already know what this Tenyi stuff does. In a pure build, it can still go just as far as Sword Soul can. Yes, you're not going to get as much advantage, but it can do some pretty insane things in Master Duel. I've really been enjoying playing it in Platinum. Next, we have the playset of Parallel Exceed. So what Parallel Exceed gives you access to is it gives you access to Baguska, and it also lets you extend into Link 4s if need be. So Baguska with your Link monsters is just really strong, but we'll get more into that as we get to the extra deck. Next, we have the playset of Potted Desires. After you summon the Mare from deck, you're not really worried about banishing much from your main deck. Maybe the Flawless Protection, but other than that, there's really nothing you're worried about banishing. So it's one of the best draw 2 cards that you have access to. Next, we have the Foolish Burial Goods. It's just in there so that we can send the Heavenly Circle from our deck to the graveyard and then be able to use the banish effect of the Heavenly Dragon Circle from the graveyard to search our deck for a Tenyi. Next, we have 3 Vessel for the Dragon Cycle. This is going to let us send our Mare to the graveyard and do our general Mare combo. And also it lets you add a Tenyi if you already control a non-effect monster. So when you open up a Tenyi with Vessel, you can summon a Tenyi, link into Monk, activate this, send Mare, add a Tenyi from deck to hand, make Shaman, bring back Mare, and then just do your combos from there. Next, we have 2 copies of Lightning Storm. The only reason this is in here is because we are in a best of 1 format, and Evenly Matched is strong, but it's I feel like it's stronger in other decks. I really liked Lightning Storm. Eldritch is probably the hardest matchup for this deck if you're not going first. So Lightning Storm comes in pretty clutch. You can force them to summon the Eldritch and then shuffle it back with Boxia, or you can force them to summon the Eldritch with their Eldixir and then banish it with Draco Berserker later in the game. So I preferred Lightning Storm in this deck just for this version. Next, we have the Field Spell. The Field Spell says all your non-effect monsters are unaffected by monster effects, and then once per turn, if your opponent special summons an effect monster while you control a non-effect, you can draw 2 cards. So that's pretty insane, being able to just draw into your hand traps, draw into Vishuddha, draw into Shidana, and then or draw into follow up for the next turn, and then also preventing your non-effect monsters from being affected by monster effects. Really strong card. Next, we have Double Called by the Grave, just so that we can interrupt anything that stops our combo, like Maxi or Ash Blossom. Heavenly Dragon Circle lets us tribute a worm monster and add one from our deck to our hand. Sometimes this will come up where they imperm your shaman. You can chain this, tribute the shaman, and then still get the summon. Pretty interesting there. 3 Fists of the Unrivaled Tenyi, probably the best card of the deck. Whenever your opponent activates a spell, trap, or monster effect, while you control a non-effect monster, you negate the activation and destroy it. And then if your opponent destroys it while it's set, you can summon a non-effect monster from your extra deck. So you can summon your big 3000 Tenyi monster straight from the extra deck if they happen to Twin Twisters this or Lightning Storm, and you just choose not to respond. Next, we have Vanity's Emptiness because it's the best floodgate in the game. Let's get into the extra deck now. So for the extra deck, going second, you're going to want to play the Baxia. Baxia is just really good. When it's synchro summoned in this deck, we're always going to get to shuffle 2 cards with it, unless they don't control 2 cards. But other than that, you're always going to be able to get the double shuffle off with this. Its second effect almost never comes up, but has once for me since playing in ranked with the deck. But so far, I can't have no complaints about Baxia, especially going second, being able to just shuffle 2 cards like Eldritch or Sky Striker Link right back into their deck and call it a day there. For going first, we're playing the Draco Berserker, probably the MVP of this deck. When your opponent activates a monster effect, you can banish that monster, and then anytime it attacks and destroys an opponent's monster by battle, it's going to permanently gain the attack of that opponent's monster, and then be able to declare a second attack. Next, we have 1 copy of Baguska. Baguska with Monk of the Tenyi or Berserker of the Tenyi ends a lot of games for people, especially Sky Striker. They just can't do anything except for link into the Hayate, and then you can just destroy the Hayate or negate the Hayate effect. So Baguska is just really strong in that matchup. It's really strong in like Code Talker matchups, and anything that's gonna have to summon and activate monster effects on the field is just not gonna have a good time against Baguska. And you're just mostly gonna summon it because any Tenyi plus Parallel Exceed is Monk of the Tenyi plus Baguska, which is pretty annoying. Next, we have 1 Link Spider and 1 Link Kuriboh. This is so that if you want to make Appaloosa, you have access to it. You just make the Mare and use the tokens to make Link Spider and Link Kuriboh, and then link off into Appaloosa so that you get 3 negates, or potentially 4 negates with Appaloosa. Next, we have 3 Monk of the Tenyi. Pretty standard for the deck. You have to play 3. You can't play any less. Sometimes I wish I played Avarice, just so I could play more than 3, but that almost never comes up. It's a non-effect Link 1 that you can summon with any non-Link Tenyi, so just really solid card. Next, we have 1 copy of Lan for Hinkis. We'll call it Lan. So Lan is pretty good. It doesn't come up often, but sometimes you need to fix your board where you'll control an effect monster and your opponent will somehow stop you, or maybe you've gone through 2 of your monks or all 3 of your monks. This gives you another non-effect monster in the extra deck to be able to make, and also gets you to Appaloosa as well. So it doesn't come up often, but when you need to fix your board, that's what Lan is there for. Next, we have 1 Shaman. I was playing 2. 2 almost never came up. It's a really strong card, but 2 almost never came up. So what it does is you can discard a card, target a worm monster in the graveyard, summon it, and for the rest of the turn, you cannot activate the effects of special summon monsters from the extra deck except for Tenyi monsters. And then whenever an attack is declared involving one of your non-effect monsters, you can target 1 card your opponent controls and destroy it. So that allows you to get some good cheap battle tricks in if you can't run over something. She's really good. It's just I never needed the second one personally, at least not in Master Duel. Next, we have Nightmare Unicorn. Again, we almost never make this card. It has come up a couple times before, but other than that, it really doesn't come up too often. I was playing Access Code Talker, but because you get locked into worm monsters with the Ashina, this just was better-ish. and only because 9 times out of 10 you're locking yourself out into Worm Monsters with Ashina, and this is just easier to get to than Access Code Talker. And it's the same thing for the Blackluster Soldier. It doesn't come up often at all either. You could just try and run more copies of Berserker if you wanted, if you don't want the ultra rare, and you could just play 2 Shaman over the Unicorn. I personally just wanted the little extra versatility that these provide. And then if you make it with your level 7 Tenyis, it's going to be immune, so that's pretty solid. Next we have the Berserker of the Tenyi. It's a generic non-effect 3k Link 3. So a lot of the times you can end on this with Draco and the counter trap, and that's just a death sentence for a lot of decks. Next we have the Appaloosa. She just negates monster effects for you, and you can make her with just Mare. Sometimes you make Appaloosa and this with the counter trap, and your opponent's just not having a good day. Next we have the Tenyi Spirit Sahasrah. Sahasrah is probably the second MVP of the deck. If you control a non-effect monster, your opponent can't target your effect monsters for attacks, so it won't be able to target this, and most of the time you're making this backed with a Draco Berserker, so that's pretty insane. And then they also can't target them with card effects, so that just gets better. So they're not able to imperm the Draco Berserker or Forbidden Chalice it or destroy it with a Link monster, so pretty important card. And then the other part, which is insane, is it actually makes non-effect monsters for you in the form of Tenyi Spirit tokens, which are level 4s, which sometimes you use to Synchro Summon into the Draco Berserker with the Mare. And the attack of that token is going to be whatever monster you target. So what it does is it lets you target an opponent's effect monster, you summon a token, its attack is equal to the targeted monster's original attack. So sometimes you can just target a boss monster and then use the token to crash into it and then swing for game with this. So yeah. So that's the deck profile. Super strong deck. Been loving it in Platinum. Very cheap to build too. You know, if you take away the Appaloosa, Link Kuriboh, and the Nightmare Unicorn and the Blackluster Soldier, it's only the only ultra rare you play other than staples is the Draco Berserker. So there is a very cheap version of the deck to play. So yeah, thank you guys for getting us to 100 subscribers. Once again, I am super appreciative of that. And this has been the Tenyi deck. Thank you.